Welcoming to you live once again from the Johannesburg Expo Center. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to once and all as we welcome you to the show, welcoming our listeners, our viewers on the various platforms of Salam Media this afternoon. It is day two of the ANC's national conference that is taking place. In fact, we just got out of a press conference with Pulimabi and talking about where the conference is at this point in time. Now, yesterday they started off very, very late, and at this point in time, they still are attending to day one. And some of the critical issues that they are thinking about is the whole credentials report and the organizational report before they get to a stage where voting for the top six will begin. Now, that was due to begin this afternoon at around 8:30. That hasn't happened, but according to Pulimabi, they are going to be making up time and they will finish the conference on time. But looking at the conference yesterday, obviously we've seen the likes of the Mkhonto Wesizwe, the Military Veterans Association, staging a protest. We've seen people like Ndiwe Sisulu. We've seen even Ace Makashule, who was outside the conference venue, and there was a lot of interest. In fact, we did one or two interviews as well, just outside, and just to see where we are, where what does this conference mean, and also to get some analysis as to the conference itself. We've seen the former president Jacob Zuma laughing and joking with President Cyril Ramaphosa. How much do we actually read into that little exchange of happiness between the two? We joined on the line this afternoon by political analyst Kim Heller. Kim, good afternoon to you, and as always, an absolute pleasure having you with us.
Thank you. Lovely to be on your platform again.
Yes, Kim, from what you've seen since yesterday, you've observed about this conference, by way of introduction, what are your perceptions in terms of what you just seen, taking place yesterday, and obviously we'll know what will happen over the next few days.
Well, I actually wrote an article for today where I said we must remember that this time is the time of the Blood River in 1838. And I said I wouldn't be surprised if the conference also deteriorates into a bloody battle, perhaps not literally, but figuratively. And what we see already is quite a disruptive start, where the president was booed, well, almost booed as he came on. And there seems to be what we see is the visible presence of factionalism in the ANC. And I see some of the early commentary has been on renewal in the ANC. And it's quite ridiculous because renewal is a word that the ANC shouldn't be using anymore because it's completely collapsed. So, and the conference is showing that, the little gesture between the two former presidents, I think is not symbolic of the sentiments across ANC delegates, some of who are very frustrated with the current administration, and some who are extremely behind and excited by a new candidate. So I think we're seeing a lot of division. I think we're seeing a slow pace of the conference as almost indicative of the performance of the ANC, because they have been very slow to deliver anything. So I'm looking for symbols in what we're seeing unfold, and we're seeing sluggish performance, we're seeing antagonism, we're seeing some hostility, and I think that's only going to grow over the next few days.
Exactly. Now, also, I think what is important is we've seen conferences in the past where we've seen the show of unity within the ANC as an organization. Now, that unity this time around, I think it's open, it is blatant that we are not seeing that level of unity as we've seen in previous conferences. And we've seen it even on the night, on the eve of the conference, when the former president Jacob Zuma came in, the singing, the dancing, the Ramaphosa songs that were being sung, and also yesterday with people like Ace Makashule making an appearance, where we've seen Lindiwe Sisulu also, on the outside with the likes of Ace Makashule, and what your reading into, these developments and these observations.
Mm. I think the party is a party clearly at war with itself. And if we look back at what I believe were the true leaders of the ANC, leaders that we don't see the caliber of today, Oliver Tambo, perhaps quite prophetically, had said, the only thing that can destroy the ANC is the ANC. And it's doing a very good job right now, because the war within the ANC is not inflicted by an external enemy. It's inflicted by internal comrades. We see comrades attack comrades. And there's a total antithesis of unity in the party. There's the greatest level of destruction we have seen for the party. So the new dawn has not only been a dark time for South Africa, but for the ANC itself. And the sad thing for South Africans is that all this infighting and destruction is actually affecting ordinary citizens, because the ANC is so concerned with internal issues and personal gratification and enrichment, that the poverty of the ordinary man on the street is clearly in second place. And I don't think there could be anything more damning for an incumbent government.
Yes, and I think obviously the critical aspect of this conference is going to be policies, the adoption of policies. Now we know some of these policies are going to be revisited. The last conference at CR17, for instance, we've seen the whole policy on land, land distribution and without compensation as well. Now, that was adopted at the last conference. Now, I've seen your tweets as well, where you've tweeted extensively about land, which is absolutely a passion of yours. You're on this particular subject, and I'm sure it's going to be coming out again. And it's good to have all these policies that have been adopted, but the critical question is the lack of implementation, Kim.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, to be honest, I don't even think it really matters what decisions the ANC comes up with, because it doesn't even implement its own policies. But I do see that in this warlike setting that is the 55th conference of the ANC, I think we're going to see the greatest casualty being policy itself, because very little attention is going to go onto policy. And if it does, I don't think that there's going to be much change. I think we're going to keep going on this neoliberal type perspective. And I think any attempt to radicalize policies, as the 2017 conference tried to do, is going to fall fall away, because the progressive legislation or resolutions that were taken around land and around the Reserve Bank have not seen the light of day. And I don't believe that they will. Certainly, if Ramaphosa comes back for a second term, and my prediction at this point is that he is set to come back.
Now, Kim, we were led to believe that voting would have started for the top 6 positions this morning, which hasn't happened yet. And one of the holdups has been the whole question surrounding the credentials and the vetting of the credentials of the members who are present, to make absolutely sure that they are in good standing, that they will have a say in terms of voting on the resolutions, in terms of voting for who is going to take the ANC forward over the next 5 years. And at this point in time, simplistically putting it, is digital vibes versus pala pala. And that is, how I think many are actually looking at it, and just your thoughts, on both. I know your feeling on President Cyril Ramaphosa, but looking at Zweli Mkhize as a contender for the top job.
Yeah, I personally think they're both very poor choices, and one has to ask if in this day and age of South Africa that these are the 2 best candidates that we have. I think we're in a sorry state. And also the fact that within the top 6, it looks like there would only be one woman, is a deep shame and a very deep stain on the state of our democracy, that in the ANC, its own people believe that there's not a woman capable of being the president. So to me, we have two men, both with shadows cast across them. And I think if that's the best we can find, we're not in for a very good next 5 years. I think that it's unfortunate that we do have strong women, such as Dr. Dlamini Zuma, who I think was the one woman or the one person in the ANC that this week showed some integrity by standing against her party and I think siding with ordinary South Africans who simply want accountable government. And she said, as a responsible and disciplined ANC member, I vote yes, we must explore the Section 89 report. And the party has threatened to discipline her. Apparently that has fallen away or not be effected before the conference. So she may stand. But what we're seeing in the ANC is very few leaders of integrity, such as Dr. Dlamini Zuma, who are prepared to stand without fear or favor for things that are right. And that is, I think, what I would call the level of leadership load shedding in the ANC itself.
Interesting that you speak about Dr. Dlamini Zuma, and one of the key issues that is going to be a point of discussion at this conference is going to be the step-aside rule and a policy on the step-aside rule. And just from what has taken place on the vote as far as the Section 89 report goes, I think looking at her and also looking at someone like Lindiwe Sisulu, in terms of how would she actually feature in the future of the ANC, especially over the next 5 years, Kim?
I think the role of women is going to be minimal. We've seen the collapse of the ANC Women's League. We see that anytime a strong leader like Dr. Dlamini Zuma or Lindiwe Sisulu speak out, and both of them have had very relevant things to say, they are quickly shut up by the leadership structures. So I think they're both in compromised positions as far as the ANC is concerned. But I think for ordinary South Africans who are watching two strong women take quite principled stances, I think they have certainly gained the respect outside of the ANC. But if anything is in decline in the ANC, it is leadership. And even the caliber of the woman that they've put forward. I mean, we have a Nomvula as a possible candidate, and she's likely to come in. But she's also a leader that has been very deeply tainted in the past. So you have to ask, why would the ANC keep putting up leaders of this low caliber that are questionable, when they should have so many young up-and-coming leaders that have got no baggage associated with them and that have been nurtured to represent the young strand of the ANC. But we see the ANC churning out the same old people, most of whom have been implicated in sagas. And as for the step-aside rule, it may well come back and bite the current president, because if he's forced to step aside, given this private prosecution of him, it would mean that he's tripped up by his very own resolution. And I think I wrote a piece today, which should come out today, where I've said that he may win. I do think he'll win this election, but he may be forced to step aside afterwards. And then we're going to see that the position that is absolutely gold this weekend, that is more important than the presidential one, is that of the deputy president. And that's a position that's likely to go to Paul Mashatile. And he could well take over from President Ramaphosa within the course of next year. So the step-aside rule may well benefit Paul more than any other candidate.
So, Kim, you mentioned the collapsing of the Women's League, and we're speaking about youth and the future leaders of the African National Congress. Now, it's not only the Women's League that was collapsed, the Youth League was collapsed as well. Yesterday, we seen the protest by the veterans that had taken place. So they've been sidelined as well. That has been collapsed. And these are all support organizations that were integral part of the ANC. Now that they the youth, especially, where are the youth politically? Where do they fit within the ANC going forward? And again, that begs the question: are we headed for a leadership vacuum going into the future within the ANC?
I think you're asking a very important question, because I think there is a leadership vacuum, and the collapse of these structures, to me, is an indication of the failure of the organization that can't maintain its own leagues. And we see further evidence of complete disarray and collapse. The fact that ANC staffers couldn't get paid at various points of this year is really a shocking indictment of a government that is completely losing its way, and can't be trusted, and certainly can't be a government that we feel safe under that type of stewardship that doesn't care for its very own people. But the remarkable thing in the ANC is the lack of generational mix. I think we're going to see it in the NEC. I think there's been a deliberate attempt to bring in gender and younger people there. And perhaps that will give a nice momentum to the top six and give some spark there. But generally, there has been a lack of faith shown in both women leaders and in young leaders. And I think it's just showing the true composition and complexion of the ANC as an old and dying organization, because there are no upcoming leaders that have been nurtured to take over. And if they are, they haven't come to the fore or not given the support. The fact that we have old people like Wadee at the forefront of a conference is a shocking indictment of an ANC that has deserted its youth. And I think there's another quote from Oliver Tambo, who says, if you do not look after your children, our children, a party doesn't deserve its future. And I think that's exactly where the ANC is right now.
Well, Kim, thank you very much for that. And as always, for your time, we certainly will follow development, and I'm sure you'll be keeping a close eye in terms of what is playing out here at the Johannesburg Expo Center. But for now, all the best to you. And as always, we do appreciate you taking time out, talking to us right here on Salam Media.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Kim Heller with us this afternoon, live out of the conference. We are coming to you from our studios that have been allocated to us here at the Johannesburg Expo Center. We're going to go for a break. We'll have a lot more coming to you live out of Nazareth today.